Hi, I'm Kat, and this is my podcast at Soul Level. It is my intention for this podcast to inspire my listeners to be brave and courageous, to build their own lives in a way that makes them truly, truly happy, healthy, satisfied, and at peace. I will do this by sharing my own stories and how I go about building the life of my dreams, as well as through the stories of others inspiring guests. So welcome. May this podcast be an inspiration on your path. Okay, so welcome everyone to my podcast at Soul Level. Today I have David McGee with me, who is the owner and founder of DM Hypnotherapy in Norwich, Norfolk, UK. David has been a professional hypnotherapist and life coach since 2017, helping clients of all ages break free from anxiety, stress, and panic attacks. His office for face-to-face clients is an Oak Lodge business centre on the outskirts of the city of Norwich. But David also conducts sessions online. He has worked extremely hard to build a well-respected professional reputation and has taken the bold step of working full-time as a therapist at the start of 2019 and having helped many hundreds of clients over the last 4 years. David has experienced several life-changing events, including a marriage breakup, which he believes was the main contributing factor in a severe case of depression throughout his 30s. Then, just before his 40th birthday, he had another event that rocked his world and was really struggling with who and what he was becoming. He went to see a therapist, and with her help over a few sessions, he was able to fully recover. His life had been transformed, and David says that the only reason for looking back now is to see how far he's come. Fast forward to now, and David is definitely making the world a better place by helping people get out of emotional pain and help them positively transform their lives. So thank you very much for that introduction, David, and welcome.
Hi, Kat. Yeah, it's really good to be here. I feel honoured to have been invited to come and have a chat with you today.
Yes, and thank you very much for agreeing to this invitation. I just want to mention to those who are listening that I have covered in my first episode of this series how I met David, because David, you are a part of my story when I was your client back in 2019 as well. It was definitely a very first, but also a very big first step for me to choose a different direction in life. And as a result, one of the things as a result is what I'm doing now, basically. So I wanted to make sure that I share with others, the let's call it the beauty and importance maybe of considering hypnotherapy if it's something that, people are interested at the end after listening to the interview. So I just wanted to start by asking if you could maybe share with us a little bit more of your story and how did you get to do hypnotherapy?
Okay, so for most of my life I've been an engineer, and I've worked in many local what might be considered blue chip companies in Norfolk, and but I've always been more interested in helping people helping people better themselves. So even when working with within engineering, I was very keen on helping other people develop, working with apprentices. So it's always been a passion of mine, really, to help help people achieve things that they want to achieve. And someone said to me when I was 20, or around the age of 20, someone said to me that you're a really good listener, David. You would make a really good counsellor. And that's something that stayed with me, and at various times throughout my life, I've thought back to that. As you mentioned in the introduction, I've had several relationship issues, and I've come to discover really that I was the issue more than the relationship, and I really thought I got to the age of 39, and really thought I'd messed up sort of big time in terms of my life, and a friend of mine said to me that he said, David, if you had a broken arm, it would be pretty obvious, and you go and see a doctor. He said, and I said, and I remember this to this day and where I was, and he said, if you think your head is broken, maybe you need to go and see a head doctor, and and we sort of laughed about that, and that stuck with me for a little while, and I thought, well, maybe I do, and in and I'm talking now like sort of 24 years ago, which was it was still early days of the internet, and in those days you looked in the yellow pages if you wanted to know anything. It was a big thick yellow book it was a directory of just about everything, and I looked for psychiatrist, because that was the only name that I knew as a head doctor, and I found someone called a psychotherapist, and I spoke to this lady. She said to me, definitely, David, I can help you. And the biggest thing that she gave me there was hope. She gave me hope that life could be different. And so I booked to see her. I went to see her for a few sessions, and honestly, it completely transformed my life. I'd been in a deep, dark depression for a long time. For many years, I was prescribed Prozac, and I felt as though that was the only thing that was keeping me going. After a few sessions with her, my life was transformed, and that's not an understatement. I just felt completely different. Very soon, I was off antidepressants, and my life has. I feel as though my life has gone from strength to strength. I've had ups and downs since. I've had other relationships which haven't worked out, but nothing like what's happened to me in the past. Nothing has taken me anywhere close to where I was in the past. And another big life-changing event. It wasn't a relationship this time, but it was the ending of a job that I'd been working in for 10 years, and that really helped me to sort of reevaluate things in my life. And that's when I started training. I started training as a hypnotherapist, and I kept thinking back to the help that I was given by this lady called Joan when I was 39, and I started training part-time as a hypnotherapist, and that was 2016, 2017, and yeah, and here I am now. Here I am now working full-time, helping people transform their lives, giving them hope in the way that I was helped all them years ago.
Thank you. That's an incredible story, and I always find it interesting how people tend to be at some point in their life earlier on somehow prompted into something that they then take up later on in life, because it's a similar theme with my previous guest as well. So that's always very interesting, I think, and curious to just notice. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about perhaps what's the difference, if someone was considering help, what's the difference in your own knowledge and experience between psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and then by the same measure, hypnotherapist versus a hypnotist, because I feel like a lot of people are a little bit worried about hypnotherapy because they're worried they will be hypnotized or something. So yeah, if you could tell us a little bit more on that.
Yeah, so a psychiatrist is is a medical professional, a doctor that's gone on to this is the way that I see it anyway. A doctor has gone on to to further studies, and a psychiatrist is able to prescribe medication, in the same way that that a doctor is. A psychotherapist is is a, I suppose, another term is counselor. I understand psychotherapy to be much more of a talking therapy, and there are many integrative psychotherapists that also use hypnosis and hypnotherapy as well. Within my training to be a hypnotherapist, although it wasn't the full qualification that you might that a psychotherapist might then go through, the qualification to become a hypnotherapist does include counselling skills as well, because that's part of what happens within the process of hypnotherapy. Within the UK, we call ourselves a hypnotherapist, and in the UK the term hypnotist is generally reserved for entertainment, for stage entertainment,
Right.
or for street hypnosis.
Okay.
So the word hypnotist is generally, within the UK, generally sort of reserved for entertainment purposes, whereas therapy still uses hypnosis. They both use hypnosis, but therapy is helping people with stress, anxiety, depression, stop smoking, weight loss, things like that. Interestingly, within the United States, you cannot call yourself a hypnotherapist unless you have a medical qualification. So many of the equivalent to myself in America, they don't have a medical qualification. So the way they get around that is that they call themselves a hypnotist. So in America, for therapy purposes, many therapists call themselves a hypnotist because they're not allowed to call themselves a hypnotherapist. Whereas in the UK, the term hypnotherapist is accepted. So I don't know if is that helpful in terms of
yes,
just
I think
my
so.
view.
Yes,
Yeah.
and thank you for explaining that, because yeah, I mean, for those who are not really in the subject much, they might wonder about the difference. I certainly would have, if I mean, hypnotherapy personally to me sounds a lot more trustworthy than hypnotist, But then again, if I was in US, right, and I knew anything about those roles that you just mentioned, I would have possibly been more open to a therapy session with a hypnotist without being worried that I'm just going to get hypnotized in some way, right? Because yeah, I think as funny it might sound, I whenever I mention hypnotherapy to anyone who maybe hasn't had an experience, they often tend to laugh and say, "Oh, are you being hypnotized? I don't know if I would go because I'm worried I would," they're worried that within the session itself they might not be under any control. They can't control what happens, and obviously it worries them. And movies and media doesn't help when it comes to portraying what is it, hypnosis. I suppose usually it's shown in the in the entertainment, right, and how it looks like for hypnotists to hypnotize people, and then they just do funny stuff that they otherwise wouldn't have done, right? So as funny as it is a real concern, I feel, that people have. So it's very good to understand the difference. And also, because of that, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how does hypnotherapy work, and why did you choose hypnotherapy rather than maybe any other therapy, and how a session might look like if someone was to come to you?
Okay. So the way that I see hypnosis, and you could read a number of books, and there would be a number of different explanations of what hypnosis is. Hypnosis is for me just a state of focused concentration. And an example, one word that's often used is trance. You go into a trance-like state, and when you're looking out the window and daydreaming about the summer holiday that's only 85 days away from now, you are in a trance-like state. It's almost like you go into an inner experience. You go into a space where it's almost like you are there on holiday whilst sitting in the office staring out the window. Similarly, we often go into a trance-like state when we're driving. This is something that I explain to my clients, that have you ever jumped in the car to drive from A to B and not remembered the journey, or for the most part not remembered it? And we can go into like an autopilot state that our unconscious mind takes over and just does the driving for us, whilst we're thinking about, if we're driving home after a hard day's work, we're thinking about what are we having for our evening meal, for example, whilst that unconscious part of us is driving. That is a trance-like state. We can get on the motorway and before we know it, 100 miles have passed, and we can get this thing that's sometimes referred to as time distortion. It's almost like the last 2 hours haven't existed because we've traveled 100 miles, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're at the motorway exit we need to take already. So these are different examples of a trance-like state. It's important to recognize that you can't be hypnotized to do anything that you don't want to do. So anything which your unconscious mind knows is against your moral code, for example, you cannot be hypnotized into doing something that you absolutely do not want to do. And one example I sometimes use with my clients is that we all have credit cards or debit cards, and although a lot of purchases now are contactless, before the limits were up, to fill up the car with petrol, we had to put our card in and type in the PIN number, and so we all know that the PIN number is like really important to us, and we need to keep it safe and not tell anyone, and so on. And if you were in the state of hypnosis and someone said to you, and in a moment I'm going to click my fingers and you will tell me what your PIN number is, there is a part of your unconscious mind, which is there for your protection, and it knows in most people, it knows that is something that is unsafe for you to give up. So it's quite likely that you will not give up the PIN number. It's quite likely that if that was a suggestion, you would reject that, and it might be that you immediately sort of come out of that trance-like state. So you cannot be hypnotized to do anything that you don't want to do. Even the people on the stage that are clucking like chickens or barking like dogs or speaking as if they are fluent in Chinese, for example, and the audience laughing at what is happening, they would not be doing that if they did not want to do that. Hypnosis is not mind control. It is not something that you can be forced to do this if you don't want to do it. So in that way, it is very safe. I get asked the question a lot, and I say to people, I say to my clients, I say, the stuff on the stage where you're barking like a dog and clucking like a chicken, I can do that, but that costs a lot extra. And then,
right.
and then they laugh about it, and that's not what they come to me for. But that tends to just lighten the moment and just dissolve the fear.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you very much. Yes, that's very helpful. And I was wondering, because whilst you were talking about it, I had a remembrance of when you have when we had our first session, and you were obviously explaining to me what hypnotherapy is like and what it works, how it works. Sorry, on what levels. And so I was hoping maybe you could mention how hypnotherapy works on our subconscious level and why that is in effect so effective, right? And if possible, now I'm not. If not, that's fine, because I know that there was some sort of a drawing, I think, that you usually have prepared if you still use it.
Okay.
If you're happy to mention the explanation that was on there, and how you basically present the sessions to your potential clients, because I thought that was very helpful.
So the drawing, I remember the drawing, and I often use that now. It is that so I would draw a picture of an iceberg, and then sea level is high up on the iceberg. We use the phrase the tip of the iceberg. When we use that phrase, we mean that there's a lot more under the surface, just like an iceberg in the real world. And I use that drawing to represent the mind, in that the tip of the iceberg, the top of the iceberg, represents the conscious mind, which is in the iceberg model, which is about 5%. It depends on which book you read. Some books might say 10%, some say 5%. But the conscious mind is a very small part of our mind. The unconscious mind, the rest, the 95%, is our emotional mind, and it's also where all of our feelings come from. It's also where all of our experiences are stored. It's also where all of our beliefs are as well. What we believe about the world, what we believe about people, what we believe about ourselves. All of that is in the unconscious mind too, and hypnosis can, in effect, help to put the conscious mind to one side. And in putting the conscious mind to one side allows you, within that experience, to explore the parts of your unconscious mind. And in effect, if someone is stuck with let's say let's say spider phobia. That's probably one of the easiest things. Now, um, people that have a spider phobia have a belief that spiders are scary. They know at a conscious level that clients will say to me, and David, I know it's irrational. Clients will say to me, I know it's stupid. So at a conscious level, they know that there's no need to fear that tiny little spider. However, the unconscious mind, responds by creating that fear. So using hypnosis, we're able to put the conscious mind, in effect, put the conscious mind to one side, and then work with the unconscious mind to help the client change that belief about the spider, change that belief about themselves, so that they have a different experience, a different response to the one that they had previously.
Right.
So I don't. Does that
Yes.
help in terms of?
Yes, definitely. Yes, thank you. That was the iceberg. I did actually forget what it was, the drawing, but that's it. And it's really, so you've given the example of a spider, which is quite easy to understand and simple example of how our or subconscious mind might work. And the example that came to my mind, or the picture that came to my mind, would be, the subconscious mind would be the driver in our car, whereas the passenger is our conscious mind, right? Because would you agree with that? Because the as you mentioned, the spider example, but also touched a little bit on our beliefs, which is a little bit of a deeper topic and conversation, and how our beliefs, wherever they came from, right? That's another sort of rabbit hole people can jump into. But wherever the beliefs come from, they are there without necessarily our conscious awareness, unless we really start reflecting on things. And but it requires a deeper work. And through hypnotherapy, like you said, we can change the beliefs, and that literally can change your view and your conscious decisions that you make. I mean, what it definitely did for me, the sessions that we had, was to first of all be aware of where my beliefs might be coming from. So before I do something, or before I am, let's call it triggered, or I'll react to something or make a decision on an impulse, instead of just doing that, it's, you can stop yourself and think about, why do I want to do it this way, or why do I not want to do that? Am I just fearful of something? And if so, then why am I fearful? And then, like I say, you can go on and on and on about it. But oftentimes I believe we're just not aware of those beliefs, really, that are lying in our subconscious, right? And would you say that they often come from our childhood? Or, yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, that's just to go back to the spider phobia. No one is born with a fear of spiders. When you were born, you don't even know what a spider is. So you cannot be afraid of something that you have no knowledge of what it is. So no one is born with the fear of spiders. So that fear of spiders is very often given to us, not intentionally, but it is given to us by someone else. That belief is given to us by someone else, and often, whether the belief is that spiders are scary, or whether the belief is I'm not very confident, or whether the belief is I'm not good enough, whatever the belief is, the belief was given to us by by someone else, and most of those beliefs are formed by the time the child is like 7 or 8 years old. Most of those sort of deep core beliefs are are um, are given to us and reinforced at a very early age. I mean, you see kids running around that are 2, 3, 4 years old. None of them are thinking that they're not good enough. They're
Yes.
running around sort of not caring the world, just enjoying life, and then sometimes by the time they're into primary school or junior school, it's very evident, very obvious that those early beliefs have been formed, about themselves. Um, so so using hypnosis, we can examine those beliefs and and see where they have come from, and was it even our belief in the first place?
Yeah.
Um, and having that understanding, having that knowledge, I think, is the first step to making a change, to making any sort of change. Um,
Right. Yes, definitely. And like you said, we could ask ourselves, where did the belief come from? And probably many times it would be the environment that we grew up in. Parents are just people, right, as any other person. So everyone has their own beliefs,
mhm,
right? But also, I would guess media is also, you know, contributing to our beliefs.
mhm,
Um, if I was to watch as a child, maybe something about I don't know, again, spiders being really scary, it could be that I could then thought of them as being scary, not because I had an experience, although
mhm,
right. So it
yeah,
just kind of carries on, and then it just creates this whole data. I don't know.
mm,
Um, what's the word? Database. That's it.
yeah,
Database of just information,
mhm,
right?
yeah.
Um, yeah, and
And
you. Yep. Sorry.
I was going to say, and as an adult, if we've grown up with a belief, like the spider phobia is the easiest one to use as an example. If we've grown up with a belief that spiders are scary, we we constantly we constantly reaffirm that to ourselves.
Right.
It's almost like a constant on a constant loop in our mind. Every example, every example that we see, that we come across, maybe we see something on the TV, maybe someone says something, and we strengthen that belief through repetition,
Mm.
over and over again. That belief is reinforced. So one of the first things I do with clients is to help them help them examine the language that they're using, because the what's behind the language is the thoughts, and thoughts have incredible power. If we are constantly thinking that spiders are scary, then that shapes our reality. We're looking for evidence all the time to back up this theory, this belief that we have that spiders are scary. So when we are um, when we are struggling, when we're suffering, whatever it is that's going on, whether it's fear of public speaking or spiders, or it's a general anxiety thing or a health anxiety, or we do a lot to continually reinforce that belief, which is something that I help clients understand at the very first session, that it's a pattern that we must we must stop. in order for in order to start breaking down that belief.
Do you feel like potentially talking about the reinforcement, could it be a part of selective hearing, so to speak? Because when, as you say, we might be reinforcing our beliefs on a certain topic throughout our lives because we might hear, someone mention something that then reinforces what you believe in. And also you mentioned it's important to listen to ourselves and hear the words that we're saying and what are we saying, because it's a reflection of our thoughts. So I suppose what I'm asking is, do you think maybe it kind of works the same in a sense of the reinforcement coming from outside of you being more of a selective hearing for you, in a sense that you concentrated on that piece of information, even if you might have heard something positive around what you're afraid of, I don't know, 2 days before, let's say, but you kind of didn't register. If that makes sense.
Yeah. An example of that in terms of how our brain works is that it's the example of when someone goes out to buy a car. So they buy this car. It's a lovely sporty car. It's bright red. It really is their passion. They feel wonderful about it, and they drive it off the forecourt. And then seemingly every other car is identical to the one that they bought. And I speak to my clients. Many clients have had that experience where they have bought a car, and when they're driving around, all they see is, obviously not all they see, but they see many cars that are exactly like the one that they bought. So the question I ask my clients is did all of those people go out on the same day as you and buy the same car? Well, of course they didn't. It is just now that car is yours and it's important to you and it has some significance. So now you start noticing it. You start noticing it everywhere, and that also works, in a negative way with spiders, for example. People who have this firm belief that they have a spider phobia, they've always had a spider phobia, they will, their mind, their brain will be seeing examples of spiders to reinforce that belief, almost like what you're saying, this selective hearing. You might call it selective seeing as well.
Yes, true.
That everything that happens in their life, all the experiences that they have, just seem to go together to reinforce that the thought that they have a spider phobia.
And it can definitely spill over to your whole life experience, really, right? If someone believes truly that they are, let's say, cursed to have bad luck, they never have luck with, I don't know, jobs or whatever it may be. They will pick up on those reinforcements somehow from somewhere, and then whenever an example of that shows up in their life, however small, maybe to someone else who would be looking from the side, they would still make it bigger just to confirm that what they believe in is right. Right? So that just tells us how powerful our mind is. And
just thinking about another client, another example of that is that a client some time ago grew up with the belief that she was clumsy, and no child is born thinking that they're clumsy. I mean, dexterity with the hands is it's a skill a baby has to learn. It's not born with it, but most of her life she was she was told that she was clumsy. Every time something, or she tripped over, don't be clumsy. Every time she dropped something, oh,
Mm.
there you go again, Mrs. Clumsy. And so she would now live her life. Everything that happened, she would pick up a cup and drop it. And I've dropped cups before, but I don't immediately think, there you go, David, you're clumsy. It's just one of those things. But because she had this belief from a very early age, anything and everything that happened, she picked up on it, and that served to reinforce the belief that she had, that she was clumsy.
Yeah. And I suppose it doesn't help that we have in life, in every single culture, there is a um, habit, let's call it a habit, or just a way of living where we just use name calling.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we notice something different of someone else, or what we don't like or we like, we use a word to describe it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not always a very helpful, positive, word that can unfortunately stick to the other person and just become their identity in a sense, right? Like you said with the clumsiness.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's something that we do at a very early age. We find ways of making fun of other children. You see it,
Mm-hmm.
you see it in the playground, as you say, name calling, um, and then that becomes like a label.
Exactly, yes.
Almost, you can almost imagine it being tattooed on someone's forehead. I'm clumsy, or I'm not good enough, or
Mm.
I'm not confident, or whatever the label is. Um, a lot of those have come um, from those early years, from from parents, from other adults, from teachers, and anyone that to us would be, a figure of authority. Um, these labels are often sort of given to us, and because we don't have any filter at that early age, we just accept it. We accept what we're told. When we're 3, 4, 5 years old, we're told about this you know jolly fat man with a white beard, Father Christmas, that brings presents, and he comes down the chimney every Christmas. And as kids, we believe that. We don't have a filter. We are told these stories, um, and we believe it. So when kids are told, you are clumsy, or you are stupid, or you know you are frightened, it all sinks in, and is accepted as truth by the child's unconscious mind.
Yes, yes, exactly. So yeah, it's a very good thing to just keep in mind, because no one can really escape it. It's just a part of life. But
Mhm.
as long as you can live, I suppose, your life a little bit more aware, which I would guess it can only come in a later in life, really, because when you're still young and developing, it's, there's way too much happening, and we all know, I think, all of the younger years, school years, are the most tumultuous and chaotic, and
Mm.
on all
Mm.
sorts of levels, because we're just growing up, right? Um, so I was also going to ask you, do you have, or maybe no, in other way, what issues would you say people come to you the most? Are there any issues that people come to you the most? Is there anything that kind of repeats itself quite often?
The thing that comes to me the most at the moment is anxiety-related issues, and most things have an element of anxiety. Fears and phobias, anxiety. Quitting smoking, for example, there's a huge element of anxiety. Often there's a lot going on with people who want to lose weight, and often there is a lot of anxiety anxiety and stress in their life as well. So most things are coming to me at the moment with anxiety related issues, and I think what is I think there's a couple of things that is there's a couple of things that is bringing these clients to me. One is the sort of the fallout from COVID, and the pandemic,
right? Yes,
and us having to be, locked away. Our lives were completely upturned for like the best part of 2 years, and none of us have experienced anything like that in our lifetime. Hopefully, we never will again. But there was a great deal of unknowns about COVID, and unknowns creates fear. When there's something that you don't know, it creates worry, it creates fear, it creates panic, and there were a lot of unknowns around COVID at the time, and so that created a lot of fear, a lot of worry, a lot of panic. Kids, instead of being at school, were at home. Parents were having to cope with the fact that they weren't at work and they were having to look after the kids. Everyone's lives has been impacted quite significantly. So a lot of the stress, anxiety, fear, worry, panic is I think is all part of the fallout from COVID, and because it's such a big thing at the moment. That is what I focus my marketing efforts on, to help as many people as I can overcome that. As a hypnotherapist, if I exclusively advertised for quit smoking, of course most of my clients would be for quit smoking. But because where we are in the world, in the COVID stakes, then I do at the moment put my marketing efforts out in terms of helping people with stress, anxiety, fear, worry, panic, depression, and so that's the majority of clients that come to see me. And over the last couple of years, I've seen a lot more children as well.
That's interesting.
A lot of
children. And I was gonna,
Yeah.
On the back of that, you mentioned anxiety, and I was wondering if you could maybe tell us a little bit about how anxiety can really affect our life without us knowing it, because I feel like a lot of people might still be in a way affected by it, but are not very conscious of it. I know I was one of them, because especially if we're quite goal oriented or brave, ambitious, and we just we have within our personality or our nature to push forward and keep and also our mind definitely coming in with shoulds and what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and we just have this sort of, I want to call it a will and motivation, because I feel like people do motivate themselves and they can have a strong will to make something happen, but they might not be realizing that underneath it all they're actually very anxious about, well, whatever it is that they're anxious about. If they have, again, some beliefs from childhood or some fears, whatever it may be, it's kind of sitting in the background and still being in the driver's seat, really. And in effect, when you're dealing with anxiety of whatever sorts, and at the same time you are really pushing forward and you are quite a I don't know, strong-willed person in that sense, it can affect your health. Whether it's mental health, and then it can always show up as physical ailments and conditions. I was wondering if you could maybe, from the clients that you have had, you've seen so far, someone might come in, like you said, they want to quit smoking, and then you find out, oh, actually they have this anxiety behind something else, and now they're smoking because it relaxes them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So anxiety. I get asked quite a lot. What's the difference between stress and anxiety? And is there a difference between stress and anxiety? And I think there is. You can be in a stressful situation and not be anxious. It is possible. You can, and some people thrive on stress. Some people in high pressure environments or high pressure work environments, high pressure roles. Some people thrive on having that pressure as their driver, as their motivator, and so stress. For some people, a level. I'm going to say a level of stress for some people is a good thing, and we all need stress in order for us to perform, to achieve. We all need stress to get out of bed in the morning. And I'm talking about a level, an acceptable level of stress. If there was no stress, I believe there wouldn't really be any driver at all in terms of getting up in the morning and having will to do things and motivation to do things and excitement to do things. So a level of stress is useful. It can absolutely help us perform. Now, anxiety for me is something slightly different. Anxiety is fear, is worry, is panic, and often, or nearly all cases, anxiety is imagining the worst possible outcome and then worrying about it. So for me that's anxiety. If I did this and got that wrong, that person may never speak to me again. So in my imagination, I'm creating this catastrophic scenario, and that can cause a great deal of anxiety. And so I think for me they're the key differences between stress and anxiety. And some people are overwhelmed with stress or overwhelmed with anxiety, and that may manifest, that feeling may manifest in a number of ways. Some people get really stressed or even anxious about something, and that may manifest in them as anger, as anger outbursts. Other people may resort to food. they get stressed,
Right.
they get anxious, worried about things, and their comfort is food. Other people, it might be alcohol, or in
Mm-hmm.
some cases, it is drugs. It is, uh, as an example, cocaine. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a number of clients with issues of anger, um, uh, alcohol, food, cocaine, um, and some people, how it manifests for them is they they don't want to do anything. It starts off, fairly mild. We might call it procrastination, um, and then that procrastination just becomes avoidance. And so, rather than turning to alcohol, food, or drugs, their way of coping with it is avoidance. In the past, I've been in situations where I've been quite concerned about money, and so my um, strategy of helping me deal with those feelings was one of avoidance, was not looking at the bank account, not looking closely at what I was spending, um, just burying. I call it the ostrich syndrome, just burying your head in the sand. For me, that was a coping strategy, um, and that's often people come to me with the issue. So the issue might be drugs, the issue might be alcohol, the issue might be food, the issue might be procrastination, um, and and there's a phrase that's often used in therapy: the issue is never the issue. So it's not about the cocaine, it's not about the alcohol, whatever it is. What we do is we have to look back and identify, actually what is the real issue, what is really going on here, because when you sort it out, at a you know you used the word identity earlier. When you sort it out at an identity level, then it has a
Yeah.
knock-on effect, and it means those coping strategies aren't reached out for. Um, so I've forgotten in all that I've forgotten the question, but
No,
has that helped?
yeah, it was like an open-ended question
Yeah,
just to
yeah, yeah.
talk about how anxiety can manifest itself without us knowing that the reason was anxiety in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which then can stem from our beliefs, as we said before, the
Mm-hmm.
labels that we might have been given, and therefore how we subconsciously, really unconsciously look at ourselves and how we see ourselves, what beliefs towards ourselves we have, which then affects how we live in the world and how we move and how we make decisions and all of that stuff, really.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I just wanted to touch that because I think that many people might not realize that that's what's stopping them from whatever it is that they feel they can't achieve in life, or they're not good at, whatever language they use, right? Or don't use, and just overwork themselves or feel overwhelmed with everything.
And you just mentioned there the language. The language plays an important part in the client's, in the person's strategy in keeping the problem. And just a very simple example, and this can be a useful tip for anyone listening. One of the first things I do when a client sits down and says, I have anxiety. One of the first things that I do is I say to them, well, what about if I told you you don't have anxiety? And people, that sort of almost like stops people in their tracks.
Yeah.
Like, because they have reinforced this belief for so long, and now all of a sudden someone's sitting there telling me I don't have anxiety. And you know, in that moment, it causes a little bit of confusion, which I think helps to shake up that
Yeah.
belief a little. And and I we will then talk about, you know, when they have these feelings, and for most people the feelings are not there all the time, not there 24/7. So the fact is that they only have anxiety when they're doing it, when
Right.
their mind is doing what it needs to do to create those feelings. So I get people to understand and accept that they don't have anxiety. It's not a condition that they have. All it is a label which we put on the feelings when our mind
Yeah.
is doing it. So we don't have anxiety, we do anxiety.
Anxiety.
And
Yes.
all of a sudden, having just changing the way that um, we relate to anxiety, I think is very, very useful in that there's a phrase that I often use with clients. When you change the way that you look at something, the things you look at changes. When you change the way that
Exactly.
you look at something, the thing you look at changes. So when you change the way that you look at anxiety, the anxiety changes. And anxiety is not something that we have. It's not a condition that we have. It is something that we do. It is something that we do.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the doctors do a great deal to reinforce anxiety in their patients. The patients come along, doctor, I'm experiencing this, this, and this. The doctor looks at the checklist, and then the doctor says, yes, you've ticked enough boxes. Mr. Smith, you have anxiety. So now, because
Right.
a
Yes.
doctor has
Exactly.
told you, and the doctor is the authority, the doctor, you know, hopefully knows his stuff. The doctor says, I have anxiety, so therefore I have anxiety. And for me, helping people change their relationship with anxiety is the first start. So to anyone listening that thinks they have anxiety, my suggestion is that you don't. It is only there when you do it. And one more thing
Yes.
to add to that is people talk about my anxiety. So I'm giving away all my secrets for free, but
Yeah.
it's cool. It's cool. I am really passionate about this.
Yeah.
Um, People talk about my anxiety, and I get them to think about all the things that they preface with the word my. So they talk about
Mm-hmm.
my car or my children or my house or my bank account. And anything that you put my in front of, you are very protective over. You do not want to lose. You want to keep. It's very important to you. It's mine. So when you put when you put my in front of anxiety, it puts it in that category. It puts it in that like it's mine. You're not going to take it away
Mm.
from me because it's mine. It's important to me. It's mine, mine, mine. So I get people to start referring to anxiety, the feelings that they have, as that anxiety.
Right.
So it's no longer my anxiety, but it's that anxiety. Now, if you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
anything that you put the word that in front of is outside of you. I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
around my office here, and that clock, that cup of coffee, that diary, everything that I preface with the word that is outside of me. So by calling it, referring to it as that anxiety, all of a sudden it's not inside you, it's outside of you. And if it's outside of you, how can it control you?
Yes.
So there are a couple of really useful things there. Whilst we were talking about anxiety, and I'm really passionate about helping people understand and change their relationship with anxiety. Anxiety is not something that you have; it's not a condition. It's something that you do, and always
Mm-hmm.
refer to it as that anxiety,
Yes.
not my anxiety. So
Yes.
I hope that's useful.
Yes.
Maybe I've gone off on a bit of a tangent, but
No, that's
it just
good.
felt right
I
to
like a
sort of throw those
tangent.
in there. Yeah, yeah.
No, I like that. And I think it will help a lot of people that listen to maybe put things into perspective and, and look for help when they feel it would be a good idea for them, you
Hmm.
know. And even if whoever's listening, and even if your mind tries to tell you rationally why you might not need therapy, and yet you feel in your body it might be a good idea, because that's one of the things that I do, and I try to do now with my work, is to get people out of their heads as well and try and feel, because our body tells us so much, but we have the habit of ignoring that and analyzing and rationalizing with our mind,
Hmm.
because our mind obviously is a tool, but it shouldn't be there to control our lives, our mind, because as we just discussed over this past hour, it has a lot of storage of all kinds of things. So, and it's very dependent on um, our life experience, our beliefs, and so those are all things that you can work through and change perspective, expand, improve, whatever the case may be. So try not to rely on your mind too much, and therefore the words and the language that you pay attention to the language and the words that you use, and also what other people are using, and therefore what you're seeing as an evidence in your life, right?
Hmm.
So it just kind of encompasses all of that together. Can you please tell us how people can find you, where they can find you, your website, or if you have any social media, how they can get hold of you if they're interested?
Okay, probably best to visit my website in the first instance. Um, so my website is DM Hypnotherapy Norwich. So that's all one word there. DM Hypnotherapy Norwich .uk.
Okay, and they
Okay.
can find everything on there.
They can have on my website. There is, of course, a little bit about me and my story. There's some information about the various packages, the various issues that I help clients with. When you land on the website, there is a video, a video of me explaining how I work. And you can, because anxiety is like a big thing at the moment, most of my clients I'm helping with anxiety, you'll be able to claim your free anxiety relief pack on my website.
Mm-hmm.
And the anxiety relief pack is a relaxation recording. It is also a PDF, like ebook, just a short ebook, which is the 7.5 things that you need to do to reduce stress and anxiety right now. So if you pop your details in, I need your details to know where to send that. So on my
Mm-hmm.
website, you can click the button, pop your details in. I'll send that over to you with a link to the relaxation recording, and also an offer of a free consultation, a free anxiety assessment call with myself, where we can jump on the phone and take as long as it takes for me to understand um, what the issue is, and then on that call I'll be able to let you know how I can help, what it looks like to become a client, how I work with clients, and I'll be able to explain as well what I call my 100% money back, no risk guarantee. I'll be able to explain that on the call as well. And I don't think that there is another therapist that offers anything like like that. What I offer, I work very different to a number of, well, very different to most therapists, and I truly believe that the way that I work now it is giving me and my clients the results that they're looking for. There are a number of Google reviews as well. So if you just Googled for DM hypnotherapy, you'll find my Google profile there, and there are a number of Google reviews. And on the strength of the Google reviews, I get many calls. Saying to me, David, I've seen the Google reviews, and I really want to find out more and find out if you can help me. So, DM Hypnotherapy Norwich.uk.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. And I will put the link in the show notes as well on the podcast, so people can just click on the link. Just one little thing I just wanted to double check with you. As you do online sessions, does that mean they can be international as well, or is it just for UK?
No, absolutely. I use Zoom for online sessions, and people do ask me, can I be hypnotized, over Zoom? Absolutely, because being hypnotized is the experience that you have, rather than any magical power that I have. Yes, it's the words that I use, but it's the experience you have. And absolutely, I have worked with clients in Europe. I see a lot of face-to-face clients at the moment, but of course, through COVID and lockdowns, I was working with online clients, and I worked with yourself, Kat, online.
Yes.
As well. So absolutely. I can work internationally. We'll obviously have to respect time zones and things like that. So we're both at our best. So nationally within the UK, internationally on Zoom. Is
brilliant.
Fine. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you, David, and I can't wait to share this with people. And if anyone has any questions on the back of this podcast, then obviously let me know. And who knows, if you're up for it, David, if people were interested in a little bit more information, we could maybe do it again as and when. We'll see. But again, thank you very much, and all the best.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Kat. Thank you for allowing me to share my passion of hypnotherapy and hypnosis with you. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and leave a review. You can find me on www.soullevelhealing.com. Bye for now.